What's going on, guys? Welcome to the video. So we had Ian Blackford, the Scottish National Party MP, on the Venereal Disease show earlier today. As you know, Ian and his party want Scottish independence from the United Kingdom, and for the last few days has called Boris Johnson the last Prime Minister of the UK, while still complaining that he is the Prime Minister. Now, you would think that the SNP would be jumping for joy about Boris being the PM if what Ian Blackford says is true about him being the last ever UK Prime Minister. But of course we all know that Ian Blackford and the rest of the SNP party has the intelligence of a grapefruit and can't see through their obvious contradictions regarding their position on Boris. Ian Blackford continues this mantra on the VD show and once again cannot help but lie about more figures surrounding a no-deal Brexit. So once again he needs to be called out. On the show with him is the Remoaner Labour MP Meg Hillier, who demands a second referendum, so a true champion of democracy. Joining them is also the Tory MP Alberto Costa. Let's check it out.
Well, I'm now joined by the Labour MP and Chair of the Public Accounts Committee, Meg Hillier, and from Scotland by the SNP MP Ian Blackford, and from Leicester by Alberto Costa, the Conservative MP who lost his job in the government trying to guarantee the rights of EU citizens who live in the UK. Good morning to you all.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Now, Meg, if I may, I'll start with you. I think you've done 10 reports so far, at least 10 and counting, in terms of Britain's preparedness for Brexit. I mean, where are we right now? How prepared are we?
Well, of course, the civil services had to prepare for all eventualities, for a no deal and a deal. And then, of course, the deal came forward. But we're now, we're beyond the point of no return now for making preparations. So despite all the bluster from the Prime Minister today about and setting up all of these procedures, that has been happening already because you've got to make decisions, let contracts and so on. But let's be clear, there's no democratic mandate for this no deal. Even the Prime Minister, when he was leading the Leave campaign, promised it would be easy, we'd still be on the same trade terms, and now he's threatening to tear all that up and crash out with no deal. It's really irresponsible because there's a lot we heard from big business. Small businesses will really struggle with this.
Well, that's it, isn't it? I put that question to Josh Hardy and he said it isn't too late. Would you disagree with that for small businesses?
One of the abiding concerns of my cross-party committee is the amount of work that small businesses will have to do, the amount of money they will have to pay. Some of them have never filled out a customs declaration. They'll have to find an agent to help them. A lot of these bureaucratic procedures for small businesses really will be quite impactful. And there is no other... If we crash out, you just can't do trade freely with the EU. You will have tariffs, there will be costs, and as well as the bureaucracy. And that's a really big impact on small businesses which really aren't ready.
So we start with the Remoaner commie cumbucket Meg, who wants a second referendum, of course. The host asks her how prepared is the UK for a no-deal Brexit. This comes after an earlier segment from the CBI, which I will do a video on separately. The Labour MP admits that there are over 200 procedures already being put in place long before Boris became Prime Minister. So if that's true, Meg, then why have all you Remoaning fuckpigs been screaming at the top of your lungs that a no-deal Brexit will be a disaster and we are not prepared for it? Like trucks won't be able to cross the channel and will be backed up tens of miles in Kent and all this nonsense. Why was all these scare stories pumped out by the mainstream media if you've all been preparing all along? I mean, I remember seeing a story a while back saying the royal family would have to be evacuated from London in the event of a no-deal Brexit. What the fuck was all that bullshit about? Who's going to cause unrest then? The Remoaning soy boys and commie cumbucket Remainers? Let them try and cause this unrest and threaten the Queen's safety. There is an army barracks a couple of 100 metres away called Wellington Barracks. The unrest would not last very long. Protesters complain about the police using heavy-handed tactics. You wait until you get a bunch of squaddies go over there and grab hold of these soy boys. They will be begging for police brutality. This Remoaner goes on about there not being a democratic mandate for no deal, while she wants a second referendum that has no democratic mandate and could never have one because to ignore the first vote would be undemocratic. Therefore, any future vote on the subject could not be considered democratic. Let's not forget that Tony Blair had no democratic mandate to take us into 2 wars in the Middle East, but he still did it. Gordon Brown was anointed Prime Minister without even the Labour members voting on it, so don't try and talk shit to us about democratic mandates, you stupid bitch. She thinks crashing out with no deal will be damaging to small businesses because these people will have to learn how to fill out a customs form. Like that requires an advanced degree in rocket science and astrodynamics to complete. Is this woman for real? That's the best you could come up with. They will have to learn how to fill in a fucking form. Drop me out, you dozy bitch. The world will end for small businesses because people will have to fill out a customs form. Oh, the humanity. The poor, poor people. They will have to fill in a form. Better stop Brexit because an advanced, first world nation citizens cannot learn to fill in a form. You better scrap the education system. It's clearly a waste of money since adults who run businesses can't even fill out a form written in English. It's such a ridiculous thing to say. Let's move on and hear what Ian Blackford had to lie about on the show this time.
Ian, let me bring you into this discussion. You have recently branded Prime Minister Boris Johnson the last Prime Minister of the UK. What exactly did you mean by that?
Well, what I mean by that, I think people in Scotland are looking on appalled at what is happening with the election of Boris Johnson as Prime Minister. He hasn't been voted in by the people of Scotland. He hasn't been voted in by parliamentarians. He's simply been elected Prime Minister by a group of Tory MPs. And when you look at polling in Scotland, but more than 3/4 of the people of Scotland don't trust Boris Johnson. And I'd simply say to Boris Johnson that he has to respect the wishes of the Scottish people. We voted very heavily to remain, 62 to 38%. There is no better deal than the one that we have at the moment. And the real fear that we have is if Boris does take us out on a no-deal basis, it's going to cost up to 100,000 jobs in Scotland. And let's remember that the government under Theresa May warned us that there's a risk to food supplies, that there's a risk to the supply of medicines. This is the height of irresponsibility. But I would say to all my colleagues that are parliamentarians, we have our responsibilities to our constituents. I know that there's a majority in Parliament against no deal. And when we return in September, we have to flex our muscles. We need to make sure that legislation can be brought forward by members of Parliament that stop this nonsense, that Boris Johnson is told quite simply, no, you won't be doing this because this is an act of sheer vandalism on the UK economy that is going to imperil our constituents, make people poorer, and Boris simply is not going to get away with this.
But Alberto, Parliament might not actually be able to stop this. That hasn't been ruled out.
No, I think one of the things which is important, Victoria, is
sorry, Ian, can we just give Alberto just a moment to answer the question?
So Ian states the people of Scotland are appalled that Boris Johnson is Prime Minister, when we all know that the Scottish people are disgusted they are represented by lying shitweasels like you and Nicola Fishlips Sturgeon, who claim you want independence only to become the vassal state of the EU. Their idea of independence is to become part of the German Franco superstate that more people in Scotland voted to leave than voted for the SNP. I would hardly say the SNP has a mandate to speak for Scotland if more people in a Remain area voted to leave the EU than voted for a party who wants independence from the UK. Ian chats utter shit when he says Boris was elected only by Tory MPs, when in reality he was chosen to be a candidate by the Tory MPs and elected by the Tory party members, 90-odd thousand of them. The SNP lost nearly 500,000 votes to the Tory party in the 2017 election compared to the 2015 election. So I would say you not only don't have a mandate to speak for Scotland, you're also becoming completely irrelevant there. So Ian, can you ask Nicola Sturgeon what it's like to possibly be the last leader of the SNP? We would all love to know. Ian then moves on to his outright lie, claiming a no-deal Brexit will cost 100,000 jobs, completely contradicting what he said about a no-deal Brexit costing 950,000 jobs last week. This also follows another claim he made on the same Politics Live show, where he said the SNP had brought in 10,000 police officers since they took over in 2007, that then later changed to 1,000 new officers in the last few years, 9 hours later when he appeared on the Newsnight programme the very same day. It turns out the number was just over 1,000 officers in 12 years, so another lie. The guy lives in a fantasy world where he just spouts whatever shit he thinks of at the time that will help further his narrative. He goes on with the usual Project Fear bullshit about there being no food or medicine in the event of a no-deal Brexit, which is so stupid I'm not even going to entertain it. This shitweasel claims him and the Remoaners in Parliament are going to flex their muscles to stop Boris. Well, fuckpig, how come you've not done it already then? What have you been waiting for? Oh yeah, you can't because it's the law that we leave on Halloween, isn't it? The host tries to ask the Tory MP about the fact the Remoaners can't stop no deal, which Ian the tosspot then attempts to interrupt and spout more shit. Thankfully, the host shuts him down. So let's hear what Alberta Costa actually had to say now.
Let me repeat, the Vote Leave campaign won the referendum, and I want to respect that result, but they made a very clear pledge to respect absolutely the rights of citizens. They've got to honour that before we leave the European Union. So if they want me to honour the Vote Leave victory, which is what I want to do, they must honour the pledges they made to the British electorate that EU nationals' rights would be absolutely guaranteed and enshrined in law, and that they would not be treated any less favourably than they are now. Until that legislation is now proposed by Downing Street, and I'm waiting for it, I'm waiting for Boris to honour the pledge that he made to me. Once he proposes that to the House of Commons, I'm confident that the whole House of Commons will unite around the protection of citizens, British nationals in the EU and EU nationals here in the United Kingdom.
Let me just bring you back in, Meg. I mean, we've heard a lot there about citizens' rights. We've heard from the CBI about preparedness in terms of business. What is the big issue here? And do you think it can be overcome in the next, gosh, I don't even know how many days?
Well, I mean, Boris Johnson is saying there's no deal that he'll accept with Europe. Well, there is a deal on the table, though Parliament has rejected that. The idea that we can't get around a table and, as the CBI said, actually negotiate. I mean, frankly, there is no democratic mandate. And as Ian Blackford said, you know, Boris Johnson was elected by 0.13% of the population as our Prime Minister. So there isn't a mandate there. So ultimately, we do need to go back to the people to decide, because nobody voted for this chaos and nobody voted to leave with no deal. Well, some people may have done, but that's not, I don't believe, the majority view of the country and certainly not of Parliament. OK, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much, Meg, Ian and Alberto, for your time. Thank you so much. Now, 3 people...
So we hear this idiot say that the Leave vote won and he wants to respect it, which is never a good sign. There should be no buts, as he is a democratically elected official. He should respect the democratic vote without question or condition. This guy is so hung up on the question surrounding EU citizens' rights that are already being protected, as Boris Johnson already committed to them having the same rights they enjoy now, which, let's be honest, was never in any doubt. Any UK government would always grant them the same rights they already had. Boris said it last week, so I'm not sure why this idiot is still going on about it, claiming he would only honour the vote to leave if Boris does that. How about do what you was elected to do and deliver Brexit, you tosspot? The host then switches back to the Labour MP, who claims Boris said he won't accept a deal with the EU, when of course that is not what he said. He won't accept a deal that involves the backstop. He wants a deal, but is ready to leave on no deal to protect democracy. What you said is completely disingenuous, love. She finishes up that segment with more complaining about Boris being elected by the Tory membership, and the usual Project Fear bullshit these commie spunk trumpets live on, and of course the Remoaner's #1 demand, to hold another referendum. What a surprise. So there we have it, guys. It was another biased panel. I know this guy says he's a Brexiteer, but he voted for the Maybot deal, so he's a Remoaner in my opinion. Meg and Ian Blackford spent the entire segment talking complete shit, and Ian has yet again contradicted himself in a television interview. When will the SNP stop him giving these interviews, because he's caught lying every single time? He is a PR nightmare for the SNP and the Remoaners. Great for us, of course, but you would think they would stop him. So I'm going to end the video there, guys. Let me know what you think down in the comments section below. Remember to like, subscribe and share this video, as it helps the channel a lot, and I will see you all in the next one.